Let's dive right into a story that has really shaken things to their core: the Jeffrey Epstein case. Right now, a massive trove of secret files is being released, and we're going to break down what these documents are telling us about how these horrific crimes were hidden for decades and what it says about the very systems meant to protect us all. First off, you just have to get your head around the sheer scale of what's happening. We're not talking about a few leaked pages here. This is one of the largest disclosures in a criminal case in US history. We're talking hundreds of gigabytes of data being made public. It's a seismic event in a long, long fight for the truth. And that really gets to the heart of it, you know? These files, they're not just about the awful things one man did. They're about the entire system, the web of enablers that insulated him, the institutions that just looked the other way. A system where if you had enough money and power, you could buy silence for decades. So let's start with what's happening right now, the thing that's making all the headlines: the unsealing of the Epstein files. This isn't just some random data dump, no. This is the result of years of legal battles and a whole lot of public pressure to drag these secrets out into the open. And what's inside is just staggering. We're getting a look at the raw data of the case: secret grand jury testimony, internal FBI memos, photo logs, and of course, those infamous flight manifests and contact logs. It's a rare, unfiltered look inside the machinery of a huge federal investigation. But here's the catch: this whole process isn't exactly a model of perfect transparency. The release has been incredibly slow, and a lot of the documents are covered in black bars, heavily redacted. And this has people from all sides of the political aisle pretty angry, arguing that these delays and redactions kind of defeat the whole purpose. Which, of course, brings us to the real question, the one that's been hanging over this case for years. How on earth did this guy operate in plain sight for so long? And why is it only now that we're seeing all of this? To answer that, we've got to go back, way back. You see, this wasn't some brilliantly hidden secret that suddenly burst into view. The warning signs were there, for years, for decades even, but for some reason, they were ignored. Just look at this timeline. It tells a really shocking story of inaction. The very first credible report to the FBI was way back in 1996, and yet nothing really happened until 9 years later, when a brave parent went to the local police. It took another full year for the FBI to launch a federal investigation. That's a full decade of delay, a decade where more people were hurt. And we need to be crystal clear about these early warnings. This wasn't some vague tip. Maria Farmer's report back in '96 was chillingly specific. It laid out the exact kind of crimes Epstein would eventually be charged with. And still, for 10 years, nothing was done at the federal level. So by 2006, it really looked like the walls were finally closing in. The FBI had a mountain of evidence, and federal prosecutors had a massive indictment ready to go. Dozens of charges that could have put him away for life. It seemed like justice was just around the corner. But it wasn't. And this is where the story takes a really dark and critical turn. This is the moment that completely derailed the course of justice and gave Epstein another decade of freedom: the infamous secret deal. To get what happened, you have to understand this legal tool called a non-prosecution agreement, or NPA. Now, usually these are used to get someone to cooperate, to flip on bigger fish. But in Epstein's case, it was used to grant him and his entire network a secret get-out-of-jail-free card. I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you have what prosecutors wanted: dozens of federal charges, a potential life sentence. And on the other side, what Epstein actually got: 2 minor state-level charges, a 13-month sentence in a county jail where he got to leave for work, and, this is the most important part, total immunity from all federal charges for him and anyone who might have been a co-conspirator. And the man who signed off on this unbelievable deal was Alexander Acosta, the top federal prosecutor in the district at the time. But the most devastating part? It was all negotiated in secret. The victims, the people whose lives were destroyed, they were never told. They were denied their basic right to be heard in court. So for about 10 years, that secret deal held. Epstein was untouchable. But that wall of silence, it was about to come crashing down, thanks to some incredible investigative journalists and the sheer courage of his survivors. Things really started to unravel in 2018. The Miami Herald published this bombshell series that exposed the secret deal to the world, and it sparked this huge wave of public outrage. That pressure led directly to Epstein getting arrested again in 2019 on federal charges. And then, in 2021, his chief accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, was finally convicted for her central role in the whole operation. And that conviction came with a serious sentence: 20 years in federal prison. For the survivors, this was a major moment, a concrete piece of justice that proved without a doubt that Epstein was not acting alone. And that brings us to the orbit of people around him. You have Epstein, of course, the architect, Ghislaine Maxwell, his top recruiter. Then you have incredibly brave survivors like Virginia Giuffre, whose lawsuits blew the lid off so many things. And then the powerful figures, Alexandria Acosta, who approved that deal, Prince Andrew, who settled a civil suit over the allegations, and political leaders like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, whose names show up in travel logs, though both strongly deny knowing anything about his crime. So that brings us full circle. This massive document release that we're seeing today, it didn't just happen. It's the direct result of all that public fury, all that incredible journalism, and the relentless advocacy of survivors who just refused to be silenced. Their fight led to the actual law that's forcing these files out into the public. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the decades of ignoring warnings, the secret backroom deal, the network of powerful people, it becomes painfully clear this isn't just a story about one monster. It's a story about a total systemic failure of justice. And that's really why this matters so much. This case is a chilling case study in how immense wealth and powerful connections can be used to bend the legal system, to silence victims, and to basically operate above the law. It really forces us to ask a tough question. Is justice in America truly blind? And so we're left with this one big, unsettling question. The files are finally open. The secrets are coming out. But has the system that protected Jeffrey Epstein for so long actually been fixed? Or has it just been exposed, leaving the door open for the next powerful person to exploit the very same weaknesses?